All right, Facebook. I think I'm live. There we go. So, what's a principle? Well, you want to look at the dictionary definition. I did a simple Google search, but I'll tell you that in a minute. For me, principle is common sense. It's a way to choose to live your life. It's a way to direct yourself and have a guide through the ups and downs that life has to offer. Currently, we live in a world that's really not a good place. I mean, despite your beliefs, which I'll get into in this video, what a belief is, the current fact is that every single day we still have about 20,000 children dying from, from preventable causes. I don't know about you, but for me, that's unacceptable. Now, how does that fit into principles? Is that what are the principles that we're currently operating from if we're just allowing that type of abuse? One might be, oh, that's just impossible to handle that, right? There's just going to always be people dying from preventable causes. It's just the way things are. That's not true. If that's your rationale, I consider you to, I would encourage you to keep watching this so you can shift that perspective. If you don't care about principles, I would also suggest keep watching this video because when this is grasped and understood, this will forever change one, who you are and how you interpret the world. But then two, that's also going to ripple out and start to affect other people around you. So, principles. Principle, according to Google, right? The almighty Google. Let's see what they say. Noun, this is just the first definition. A principle is a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as a foundation for a system or belief or behavior or for a chain of reasoning. Okay, so fundamental truth, right? And I looked up on Wiktionary where principle comes from, and this princip, like prince, right? You know, like king, son of a king is first. So it's a first. It's like a starting off. And if you're not even clear how you're starting within yourself, that's a big problem, right? Because something's starting you, something's running the show. Is it you? Or is it just a bunch of desires and programs within you that got put in there? Because unless you've really investigated this, let me ask you a question. The thoughts and the feelings that you have as you go throughout your day or as you wake up and you start to feel and move and go throughout your day, where do those thoughts and feelings even come from? What's the starting point of those? Do you even know? Have you looked into what happens for a child and how they learn and how they develop and how what they're exposed to in the early years of their life, specifically the first 5 to 7 years, how that becomes embedded in the child and then they go act that out? I mean, look at the world right now. We talked about this in the recent Self Perfected podcast, but it's like we're living in a world where the principle is either obey the authority and follow the authority or rebel against the authority. And the authority right now, meaning whatever the mainstream media is saying, whatever Bill Gates and Fauci and all of them are saying, and you just abide by that and whatever they say. Oh, and the CDC, don't forget about the CDC and the World Health Organization. It's like you either choose to abide by that and whatever they say, okay, we're going to do that, or you say, no, I'm not doing that, and I'm going to go the opposite way. But isn't that still just playing out that original programming from those first 5 to 7 years when you probably went to preschool or had your parents or whoever was watching you and you were either a good boy or a bad boy and then you got rewarded or punished as such? So this is really getting into what makes us up Like, why do we think the way we do? Why do we feel the way we do? And how do we go throughout our lives? Because there is a reason that we're doing everything. And it's because of what we're exposed to as a child. And so what do we do with this information? Are you okay just going through your life, going through the motions? A lot of people will be. And that's a choice that one can make. Now the question is, did you really make that choice, or are you just being directed by these impulses that are within you? But in reality, you do have one real choice. This is to choose what are your principles. I would suggest the only principle that makes sense to start with is the principle of choosing to do what is best in every situation. Not what's just good or just going to get you by, but the best thing. Now, within that, you have to use self-honesty. If you're like, oh, the best thing would be for me to today cure cancer, prevent all disease, end suffering, end hunger, end homelessness, like you have to use self-honesty and realize that that's not something that can just be fixed overnight. However, having that starting point or that principle of let's do what's best, let's do the best thing here, that's powerful. Now, some people have the objection of how do you know what's best for everybody? How do you know what's best for all? Okay, you should be able to reason it out for yourself. But here's some pointers. I'm not saying everybody needs to eat spaghetti or everybody needs to wear these types of clothes. No, that's just being a dictator, and that's stupid. However, let me ask you the question. Is it best for someone to have clean drinking water? Or would you say it's best for people to have dirty water that they could get sick from? Do you have the ability to reason that out for yourself? Because if not, you're in trouble. But every single human being, I know we can agree on this, deserves clean drinking water. How about food and basic nutrition? Granted, everybody's a little different, but everybody at least needs the basic vitamins, nutrients, minerals. And some people, can eat more vegetables. Some people can eat more meat, whatever. That goes to personal preference and what makes sense in the situation, right? Because it is best to use, for example, how we have technology and it can now, read the genome, and you can see, oh yeah, I'm supposed to eat this type of food, or I should stay away from this. That's able to be used within this principle of what's best for all. However, back to the beginning is it best that certain people don't have all the nutrition that they need? Now, whether you think it's possible or not, or realize the possibility of getting that food and distributing that food and nutrition to everybody, that's separate. Within yourself, do you see how it's best that everyone has at least basic food and nutrition and clean water? You can't argue with that. That's simple, common sense. Give as you would like to receive. You want and need clean water. You want and need nutrition to keep living. Why would you only look at that for yourself and not for others? Well, just because of programming. Good thing you can change that. How about education? Right? Is it best that right now in America we still have 40 million adults who are functionally illiterate? Functionally illiterate. Sad. Means simple stuff like reading directions or reading, like on the back of a pill bottle, reading the directions to take that, or using like Google Maps to get somewhere. Functionally illiterate means you can't even read that. And there's an article, it was published in recent years, that there's 40 million adults in America who are like that. Is it best that we have a school system that takes our kids for 8 hours a day, puts them in a room with 20 to 30 other kids? That's literally not enough time to support these kids to read, because every kid's coming in with a different starting point. So some kids will pick it up and they'll be great at school because they're great at memorizing. Other kids will be left behind. So is it best that that's our current accepted system? No. Now, is there a place for group education and for kids to come together and for someone like a teacher to exist? Sure, we can look at possible solutions with that. But in the current system, it's producing an ineffective result. So, there's certain things in life where we're going to have to make decisions and you're going to have to take a stand. I don't know who said the quote, but I know you've heard it. Right? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. Well, first, don't stand for something stupid that doesn't make sense. But second, if you don't have clear principles that you stand for, you have no way to make effective decisions in your life. And you're going to waste your time doing a certain job or a certain activity. You're going to do things because you're still trying to figure out how to get your basic needs met, but you're going to compromise and you're going to sacrifice, and there's going to be consequence because you don't have something guiding you. So I would suggest, with everything in my life that I know that is good, that is worthwhile, is that you really look at taking on, for real, the principle of what is best for all. And that is your starting point in everything you do. And will you trip and fall? Yeah. Is there a learning curve? Yeah. But think about it like this. Imagine you're a parent and your child is saying, Mommy, Daddy, I'm hungry. I want to eat candy for dinner. And in yourself, it's not best to have candy for dinner. I mean, you can have some candy here and there, but candy for dinner, like you need real sustenance, right? But then your kid goes, no, but I really want the candy. I really want the candy. And they start crying and it bothers you because they're crying and it's so sad and you feel all types of emotions on the inside because it's not pleasant to be around a child who's crying. And you want to have them feel good and happy and smiling, right? Is it best to give that child candy? No. Not for their whole meal. And you can look at within common sense what makes sense for that child if, you have a dessert type thing or whatever, right? A little bit of candy is not going to harm the child. However, if you're not strong enough in your principle, and in this example, it's being a parent, but you could see this anywhere in your life if you're not a parent. There will be moments in your life where you have to make decisions. And if you don't make a decision, that's also a decision. And if you don't have a principle to go back to within that, you are screwed because you're going to choose whichever option is either easier or you're going to get more energy from it. But little do you know that energy and chasing energy and prioritizing energy is you compromising and sacrificing your physical body, which is the only thing you have that's keeping you here. I suggest that if you take it seriously, another principle, for example, is honor your body as your temple. And if you take that seriously and you really take on this process of figuring out how to do the best thing, being honest with yourself, honoring your body as a temple, right? So don't pollute it. Looking at how we can create a better world for everybody. And you take that on. Guess what? In one day, your life may not change that much. In 1 week, it may change a little bit. But you do that over a month and another month and a year and another year. That is real change. That's real character, right? That's building character. So for those of you who are not pleased with what you've allowed yourself to become, or you know that there's more or something different, or you struggle with making decisions, or you just not pleased with your current situation or the situation of the world. And if you're honest, you'll realize that the world's screwed. We are not in a good place here in America. I mean, education levels continue to drop. Guess what's not dropping? The speed at which automation is taking over jobs. The speed at which People are being replaced. In a couple of years, all the Uber drivers that are right now barely making ends meet anyway, all the Uber drivers are going to be gone. Self-driving cars. And no, for every one Uber driver that gets replaced, they're not going to have a new job being a software engineer. It doesn't work like that. There's a whole vocabulary you have to develop to become a software engineer. Plus, they already have, back in 2014, they had AI writing software. So sure, it takes another 2 years, right? But then guess what? Even the software programmers are going to be automated. And do you want to live in a world where we have that high of unemployment? Do you want to live in a world where people are desperate for money to put food on the table? I mean, we saw a glimpse of it with COVID and how people scramble, for resources, or the gas shortage that is happening at the moment. You know that saying, desperate times call for desperate measures. Do you want to live in a world where that's the accepted reality? That people are going to be more and more desperate to put food on the table because it's going to keep happening? Or do you want to be part of a solution where you have the principle that you operate from to do the best thing? And guess what? Best for all means best for you. Let me say that again. Best for all means best for you. If everyone around you is thriving, they have their needs met, they have enough food, enough water, good education, so you guys can communicate as equals, right? No one can manipulate each other through emotions, right? Basic healthcare, basic dignified life. Do you know how awesome that'll be? Then we can actually free up our time so we can do cool things and look at really exploring what it means to be human, what it means to be on Earth. Can we travel to different planets? Like what could we do if we got out of this survival mode and only caring about our own self-interest? And if you think that you don't just care only about your self-interest right now, you gotta get really self-honest. I would suggest doing DIP Lite. It's a free course online to start to really look at where your emotions and feelings come from and to realize just how much we've automated letting energy run the show, where we just care about feeling good and not feeling bad. And we're addicted to that. So it's time to be honest and use self-honesty as another principle you can operate from. And then step by step, systematically, we can work to change ourselves so that no matter what happens, we choose the best thing. So no matter what, for that analogy of the kid wanting candy, right? No matter what that kid says, no matter how much they cry and scream and whatever, you can stand strong and say, no, this is best. And then you can prevent the situation from that kid wanting to eat the candy in the first place, right? But we have consequence that we're dealing with here on Earth. Like back to the beginning of the video, the 20,000 kids a day dying. Right? That's not an overnight solution. That's systematic issues going on there. But guess what? We have the solution. I'm not searching for a solution. First, comes back to education. Comes back to knowing yourself. Comes back to finding every point of weakness, limitation, every bit of your ego, every bit of self-interest that you have where you only care about yourself over other people. It's about systematically removing that, being self-honest, correcting it, proving you've corrected it, and then walking step by step by step by step as equals with others who are doing this, operating from principle. And as we do that, as we up our education, as we change our ability to understand reality, how systems work, how the world works, guess what? You get better at making money. You understand business. You understand it's not about money, it's about a business that produces money. Then we can use that money to fund political change, economic change. Then we can also use that to change how food is distributed, healthcare is distributed, right? Common sense solutions. So that's what this is about. So that's what a principle is this fundamental truth and that starting of how you operate in the world. But guess what? That starting point becomes equal to the end point. So when you do what's best for all, and you do that over and over and over and over and over and over, and you teach that to children, and they start learning how to do that, and they consider everybody when they make decisions instead of just themselves, but they consider everybody. Guess what? We do that enough, over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, the world looks different. So, something to consider for today. If you found any value in this, share it. And join Self Perfected. Self-perfected.com. Join the Facebook group. Talk about this stuff, and you can see other people living by principle who are living amazing lives. That's why we share this. All right, everyone. See ya.